All right, today we're going to install a PISK3008 Cognito kit on a 2012 GM truck. We've already pulled the shield out of the way. We've dropped the sway bar down out of the way so we can access the steering gear bolts a little easier. So first thing we'll do is we'll pull the big nut loose off of the pitman arm. Because of limited clearance between the cross member and the end of this sector shaft, we're going to have to pull the steering gear loose enough to where we can access that. So we've got 3 bolts going through the frame here to hold the steering gear. Okay, next we're going to loosen the idler arm to the center link and also the pitman arm to the center link. Alright, so next we're going to loosen the nut on the idler support that's holding the idler arm. And here again, due to the limited clearance, we're going to have to pull this idler support loose so we have enough room to get our nut off of there and the Cognito bracket in place. Alright, so now we'll pry this up, give it a little more clearance. Get that nut and washer off of there. And then we'll pull up on the steering gear so we can get the nut and washer off of there. Okay, so what we're going to do here to get these brackets ready to install is we're going to put one jam nut on and we're going to thread it all the way onto the end, and this is going to go in the end of that bracket like that. First we'll put a little bit of thread locker on the threads to keep things from coming loose. So this is going to be mounted on that idler arm support like that, with the end installed like that. We'll put our second jam nut on and just kind of leave it loose here for now. And when we put this up into place, I'm going to sit right on the bottom of the idler arm like that. And then this stud is going to sit on the end of the heim joint, is going to go right over the end of that stud. What we want to do is put a lock washer and our sleeve nut on there at this time. Okay, we're going to put some thread locker on the inside of that special sleeve nut. And our lock washer is going to sit up here. Sleeve nut will go through there. And once we get everything snugged up in place, then we'll adjust these jam nuts. What we're trying to do is just keep the steering linkage from rocking and keeping it in a neutral position. So we'll go ahead and put the nut and lock washer back on the idler support. Okay, now we'll go over to the pitman arm side and do basically the same thing. Okay, we'll have to pry that steering gear up again to get this back into place. All right, so we're going to put some thread locker on our sleeve nut. Okay, we've got our arm up in place. Lock washer. I'm going to start this sleeve nut on the end of the pitman arm. There's two different brackets in this kit. This particular truck does not have the rubber isolator bushing. It tells you in the instructions which bracket to use for which type of center link that you have. So you'll end up with an extra bracket when you're done. So now we'll go ahead and put the steering gear nut back on. I'm going to put just a little dab of Loctite on that nut as well. And we'll have to pry this gear up enough to get this washer and nut on. Okay, so we use a tapered punch and we'll realign these holes again so we can get our bolts back in place. This does happen to be our new prototype SS180 idler support. Will be coming out available shortly. Next, we'll tighten the steering gear bolts. Okay, so next we want to tighten our idler support nut and the steering gear sector shaft nut. Good pull on these. They're roughly about 120 foot-pounds on this one. Okay, and this pitman arm nut, you want to get it as tight as you can. Get a pull as you can on it. All right, so next we're going to torque the shank nuts on the idler arm and pitman arm, and be sure and use a torque wrench on this part. It's a 70 foot-pounds. They are kind of a thin wall nut that goes up through that heim joint. Okay, now we need to adjust our jam nuts and tighten them. And remember, the idea with this kit is just to keep this center link from rocking. We just want to hold it in position. So have your wheels fairly straight ahead, and we'll go ahead and snug these up. So I'm going to use 2 wrenches here, try to keep that one from spinning on me. All right, so we're sitting pretty level on that heim joint now. All right, so next we'll put the sway bar back in place, and then the shield. And that should complete the installation on this Cognito 3008 kit. Thank you.